"I need a loan for a suit, Mom," Michael said, voice oily sweet like he was asking for extra ketchup at a drive-thru. First day Monday. Navy jacket, charcoal slacks. "You owe us," after cutting Danny's card. I let the silence breathe the way my pastor says to do when a fool is working up steam. Then I said, "Slow and clean, I already paid for your suit, Michael. It's orange, and the delivery is to the police station." He stopped breathing into the phone. Somewhere in the background, I heard his Xbox controller clatter to the carpet. That's the end of this story. But endings have a beginning. Here's how we got there. I'm Laverne Porter, 64, a black mother with a paid-off brick ranch in Bexley, Ohio, a decent 401k, and a stubborn belief that adults set alarms before noon. My daughter, Danielle Danny, married Michael Whitaker 3 years ago under church hall twinkle lights and big promises. Since then, he's slept till noon, lived on DoorDash, and shouted into an Xbox headset like it came with health insurance. When they married, I added Danny as an authorized user to my credit card for emergencies. Emergencies turned to conveniences, and conveniences turned into me subsidizing a grown man's adolescence. Gas became groceries, groceries became rent, and rent helped me. Lord became microtransactions titled Lair of Legends. Danny tried to keep the wheels on. She works front desk at an eye clinic in German Village Tutors on Thursdays and teaches Sunday school twice a month. She's 29, going on 49. Nice girls age fast when they're carrying a man's load and the grocery bags. By last Thanksgiving, the light in her eyes looked like a nightlight still on but tired. 2 days before the holiday, Danny texted from Kroger, card declined. My phone chirped with a $39.99 game charge and an $18.27 vape receipt. I stood in my laundry room with a basket of warm towels and felt something in me stop pretending. I didn't yell. I called the card company, removed Danny as an authorized user, set spending alerts, and moved the Help Danny fund to a money market where it couldn't be swiped. Then I set out a Costco rotisserie chicken, because hard talks go down easier with mayonnaise and chicken skin. "Mom, you cut the card," Danny said that night, eyes red, a dish towel twisting in her hands. "I did," I said. "We're moving from hope to evidence." "He's trying," she whispered. "He just needs one break." "Baby, he snapped off the whole Kit Kat bar," I said, and she laughed through tears. The phone rang as we cleared plates. Danny hit speaker. Michael skipped hello. "You owe us an apology and money," he said. "Cutting that card was abusive, Laverne. Danny couldn't even buy groceries. You're sabotaging our household." "Abusive," I repeated level. "What time did you get up today?" He scoffed. "Why does that matter?" "Because people who wake up at noon tell on themselves. Here's my boundary. I'll help with real emergencies, doctor. Visit tire blowout verified interview outfit. I'm not financing convenience or laziness." "You raised a daughter who doesn't support her husband?" he snapped. "You owe us." "I raised a daughter who knows the difference between help and enabling," I said. He hung up with a huff. Danny cried the kind that makes a mother want to hand over the world just to make it stop. I held her. I did not change my mind. Next morning, attempted charge $689 at Summit Lexus of Beaver Creek, labeled deposit. I sipped my coffee and typed 3 words in a note. Enough is enough. At River City Credit Union, Carla, the branch manager, printed a year of statements. We highlighted vape shop game skins, Cash App transfers to Drea at 2:13 a.m. "You're not the first mother I've seen in here," Carla said, sliding tissues. "I believe you," I said. Back home, I wrote 3 rules on an index card and stuck it to my fridge. No shared cards. Help goes to vendors, not Michael, never cash. Proof before promises, pay stubs over, I'm networking. 2 days later, a package landed on my porch, an Xbox steering wheel addressed to Michael C.O.L. Porter. I drove it to Danny's apartment. Through the window, I saw him slouched in a gaming chair headset on barking into a war that would never ask for a resume. Danny opened the door with dish soap drying white on her wrist. "Hey, Mom." "Hey, baby." I set the box on the entry table. If a man can't be useful, he should at least try not to be expensive. "He's trying," she said. "He applied at ProSource Logistics." "Then we'll clap when there's a pay stub." Thanksgiving came. I brought pecan from Schmidt's and my sweet potato pie to church. Michael arrived late, hoodie up, talking loudly about offers. I smiled like the grandmas at Target when toddlers throw tantrums in aisle 7. I had pie. I also had a line. The Monday after a text, Michael, sulking under a snapback, put Danny back on the card today. You owe us an apology and money, or I tell folks at church how you control her. Control. Men lob that word like a smoke bomb when you flip on the lights. I typed one word: no. After HR for 30 years, I know the power of paperwork. I made a folder called Household Truth. I dropped in screenshots, dates, merchants, and that Lexus deposit. I added a simple spreadsheet columns for what he said, what actually happened, receipts. It wasn't about punishing him. It was about telling the truth first to myself, then to my child. A week slid by. Danny looked a half-watt brighter, sleeping at my house 2 nights, eating real dinners. My phone stayed on Do Not Disturb after 10. Peace moves quiet. Then, as December sagged into gray, my voicemail pinged. Michael's voice. Good news. I've got a job. Orientation. Monday. Need a loan for a suit navy blazer, 2 shirts, shoes. Be decent for once and move the money. He said it like I was late with his invoice. I stared at the ceiling fan and thought about the men I'd onboarded who showed up clean on time, grateful to earn their own money. I thought about Danny at 16 waving her first paycheck from the pool snack bar like a flag. I thought about my mother who stretched dollars until they squeaked and never asked anyone to underwrite laziness. I didn't text Michael back. I made a different call instead. To do right by my daughter, I had to stop doing easy for her husband. And once a mother stops choosing easy, the ending writes itself. Here's what I know after 64 years and 2 recessions. If you want the truth, follow the paper. Men will sell you a dream for free, but the dream always leaves a receipt. I started with what I could do without a single argument. I logged into my River City credit union portal and turned on every alert they'd let a woman turn on transactions. Over $20 cash, withdrawals, new payees, foreign IPs. Then I drove down to the branch on Main where Carla, all gray Bob and good sense, printed me a thick stack. We sat at a side desk with highlighters the color of a traffic cone. DoorDash, vape, an Xbox marketplace called Lair of Legends, she read, eyebrows walking north. Apparently they sell dragon costumes for grown men, I said. Carla laughed, then sobered. You're not the first mother to sit here like this. How's Danny holding up? I told her the truth. My baby was tired. Tired girls nod along to foolishness because they don't have energy for a fight. It's why I had to take the fight out of her hands. We flagged a $689 deposit at Summit Lexus of Beaver Creek. Then we found something uglier because it was smaller, an online buy now, pay later account in Danny's name opened at 2:08 a.m. 4 payments of $89.25 to a tech shop for a VR headset. Email confirmation pinged to Gmail I didn't recognize. Could she have bought this? Carla asked gently. Danny gets sick on escalators, I said. If she ever put something over her eyes to pretend she was somewhere else, it would be a blindfold at church. Carla pursed her lips. File a dispute and consider a credit freeze for her at all 3 bureaus, Equifax, Experian, TransUnion. If he's playing with applications, that stops him cold. Already printing the forms, I said. Back home, I made coffee and called Danny to the kitchen. I slid the papers across the butcher block, nice and quiet. These aren't fights, I said. These are facts. She ran a finger down the page. Drea glowed from one Cash App line, then another. A tremor started in her throat. That could be his cousin Andrea. She tried small. I squeezed her hand. Baby, I've got cousins too. None of them get heart emojis and rent money at 2 a.m. She blew out a breath that sounded like giving up. I hate this, she said. I hate what it's doing to you, I said back. Today we freeze your credit. We unlink you from anything he touches. Anything I pay goes straight to a vendor, never to him. If he wants a suit, he can bring me a pay stub and a supervisor's name. Danny nodded like a woman deciding to live. We pulled up annualcreditreport.com, clicked through the old-school interface, and printed every line of her history. I stood there with the printer chugging, remembering my own mother in the kitchen with her checkbook spread out and a pencil stuck behind her ear. The tools change, the math doesn't. I filed disputes on the VR headset and a smartwatch from a big box store that somehow had found its way into our lives on a Sunday night. I listed Danny's phone as do not authorize on anything connected to my accounts. Then I called the Ohio Department of Job and Family Services, ODJFS for short, and asked for the unemployment fraud hotline. "Ma'am, I can't share details with you about another adult," the woman said, polite and weary the way only state workers can be. "But you can report suspected fraud. We'll investigate." I gave them everything I legally could, Michael's full name, address, phone, the dates he'd bragged to my daughter about certifying his benefits, and the job interviews he never attended. When I hung up, I felt mean for about 5 minutes, and then I felt cleaner. Some of us grew up without safety nets. Others grew up using them like hammocks. I don't mind a net. I mind a hammock. Because I believe in second opinions, I called Marlon Pierce a PI who used to be a deputy. I met him at High Grounds on Livingston Avenue, a place where the coffee's decent and the muffins taste like somebody's aunt made them at 5 a.m. He slid a legal pad across the table. "What exactly do you want, Ms. Porter?" "I want my daughter to stop living in a house with 2 adults and only 1 grown-up," I said. "I want my money out of his hands. And if he's breaking the law, I want him introduced to the consequences." Marlon scratched notes. "I can run court records for bench warrants, check pawn shops for items tied to your card. Marketplace listings, too? I can't hack anything. But receipts have cousins." "You speak my language," I said. 3 days later, he showed up on my porch with a manila envelope and a look that said he'd seen this movie before. Inside a pawn ticket from Parsons Avenue Pawn and Jewelry for a set of impact tools purchased on my card 2 months ago, a screenshot of a marketplace listing for the same set, and a printout from municipal court showing a missed court date on a traffic citation. I flipped to the last item, a series of Cash App transfers from Michael to Drea, labeled phone bill, gas, and my personal favorite, emergency. It's funny how emergencies line up perfectly with game releases and Friday nights. Marlon pulled out his phone. He also applied online for 2 jobs he never bothered to show up for ProSource Logistics and a warehouse in Groveport. Both HR managers replied to my verification email with, "No call, no show." He did, however, show up at Easy Pawn on Cleveland Avenue the very next morning. I pinched the bridge of my nose. "I want to be wrong about him," I said, "but he won't get out of the way." Marlon nodded. "That's because you're still softening the edges. People don't change till the ground gets hard." When Danny came by that evening with a bag of frozen vegetables and a face like a storm warning, I chose a different tactic. I did not preach. I did not say, "I told you so." I pushed a bowl of chili across the table, the kind I've made for 50 winters, and I told her what I'd done and what I planned to do. "I reported suspected unemployment fraud," I said. "I hired a PI. We found small-time identity monkey business in your name. We froze your credit. Next, I'm going to River City Credit Union to set a meeting for Michael to apply for a personal loan, at which point they will reasonably ask for a pay stub and a supervisor's number. If he finally has a job, he can stand on his own 2 feet. If not, he can stand in the lobby and explain why." Danny stared at me, then away, then back. "He texted you today, didn't he? About the suit?" "He did," I said. "Be decent and move the money," he told me. She flinched like the words themselves slapped. "I hate that he talks to you like that." "I don't," I said. "I file it. There's a difference." Next morning at the credit union, Carla slid me a calendar. "Tuesday at 10, we can meet in the small conference room. I'll keep it professional. If he has the paperwork, we'll move him forward. If he doesn't, we won't." "That's all I'm asking," I said. Then I lowered my voice. I also contacted Detective Shonda Mills at the 3rd Precinct. She said there's an outstanding matter on that missed court date. Strictly speaking, she can't loiter for a show. But if she's already here Tuesday for other business... Carla pursed her lips and looked at the ceiling like it had a better idea than the 2 of us. "You want it public," she said finally. "I want it true," I said. "Public is just a side effect when the truth won't fit in a living room." I went home and made a pot roast because that's what women like me do. When the world tilts, we put meat and onions in a pan and tell the truth to our counters. I put 2 plates in the fridge, one for me, one for Danny, and I dog-eared a recipe for sweet tea with lemon because hard news lands softer with sugar. Just after 6, my phone buzzed. Michael again, voice bright-oiled with victory. Good news, Laverne. They loved me at ProSource. Orientation Monday. I need a loan for a suit, navy jacket, charcoal slacks, 2 shirts, shoes. You owe us after that card stunt. Congratulations, I said evenly. Tuesday at 10, River City Credit Union. Bring your offer letter and your supervisor's name. We'll talk about responsible options. He snorted. I said loan, not interrogation. I didn't ask for a meeting with your little bank friend. Respectfully, Michael, adults meet with banks, I said. Children shake down mothers. He hung up with a theatrical sigh. I waited for the echo to stop ringing in my kitchen. Then I called Detective Mills and left a calm message. Tuesday at 10, small conference room, River City Credit Union. If there's anything you need to speak to Mr. Whitaker about, I suspect his schedule just cleared. On Sunday, I went to New Hope Baptist and sat under the stained glass. Reverend Carter preached on Proverbs, lazy hands and diligent hands, and I raised my chin and let Scripture stiffen my spine. After service, Miss Odessa from the senior committee pressed a candy into my hand. You look like you're doing the right thing, she whispered. That's because I'm doing the hard thing, I said. Monday, I pressed Danny's hand and reminded her that boundaries aren't punishments. They're fences that keep dogs from the highway. She laughed, and it sounded like her natural voice again, not the echo of someone else's plans. That night, a final text from Michael rolled in smug as a high school senior on prank day. Be ready with the money. Navy, 42 regular, make it quick. I start Monday. I looked at the clatter of pans drying in my sink, at the stack of envelopes by the door with property tax stamped in red, at the magnet on my fridge that says, Not today, Satan. I've got errands. I thought about my own credit score, earned 1 on-time bill at a time. I thought about my HOA letter about trash cans and how even a neighborhood has standards for what sits on the curb and for how long. Be ready then, I whispered to nobody at all. I was. By Monday night, Michael was strutting around like a rooster who'd found somebody else's sunrise. Danny showed me a selfie he'd posted, chin-up crooked tie over a team hoodie, leveling up. First day coming. Haters can stay broke. I scrolled past the comments from his buddies, fire emojis, fist bumps. That's my dog, and felt a familiar heat in my chest. Not anger, clarity. When you're my age, clarity wears comfortable shoes. I called Kravitz and Doherty, LLC, a consumer and employment law firm on East Broad. They'd handled a co-worker's wage theft mess back when I was still setting up purchasing contracts for the hospital. The receptionist put me with Ellen Kravitz, a woman about my age who keeps a dish of Hershey's Kisses on her desk, like hospitality is still a thing in this country. Ellen shook my hand, looked me in the eye, and said, Tell me the story the way you'd tell it to your sister. We'll fill in the legal boxes after. I slid the household truth folder between us, the ledger from River City Credit Union, with Carla's highlights, the pawn tickets from Parsons Avenue, the buy now, pay later account. In Danny's name, the unemployment suspicion timeline. I kept my voice even. HR trained me to stop treating emotion like evidence and evidence like a suggestion. Ellen spread the documents into neat fans, nodding slow. Okay, we've got 3 lanes, she said. First, identity theft, the BNPL account in your daughter's name, the smartwatch, the VR headset. We'll file a police report and the FTC identity theft affidavit that's identity, theft.gov, and put it on record with all 3 credit bureaus. Second, unemployment fraud suspicion. You already called the ODJFS hotline. We'll add a written report with dates, names, and any screen captures, plus a notarized statement from your daughter. Third, your own exposure. You're cleaning up any shared financial ties. You've already done the smart things. I don't want him in prison, I said. I want him out of my daughter's wallet, out of my accounts, out of the hammock he made with the safety net. Prison isn't up to you or me, Ellen said. Consequences aren't punishment, they're education. Let's make sure the right classroom is ready. I signed a limited representation agreement, no theatrics, just ink and initials. And she printed a cover letter addressed to the Columbus Division of Police Financial Crimes Unit. We attached copies, not originals. She flagged a notary. I hated the way my hand shook holding the pen. I loved the way the notary's stamp thumped like a door closing on a draft. Back in the car, I sat with the engine running and the heat on low and let myself be tired for exactly 60 seconds. Then I called Detective Shonda Mills. She thanked me for the packet, told me to drop a copy at the 3rd Precinct on my way home, and reminded me in a voice like a steel file, "Ma'am, you're doing the right thing, and you're not the only mother who's ever done it." That night, I put a casserole in the oven out of muscle memory, a chicken divan recipe I've made since the 90s, with leftover rotisserie meat and broccoli. Danny came by with her hair in a knot and coupons from Joanne because the girl cannot resist a sale even in a crisis. We ate on the couch with our knees touching like we used to when she was 13, and I was saying no to stiletto heels for the middle school dance. Michael texted me, she said, pushing her plate away. He said she swallowed. He said your house in Bexley looks like 1978 threw up and that your chicken is dry and your heart is drier. I put my fork down. The words hung there like bad wallpaper. And he said she went on voice thinning. Tell your mama to stop pretending she's a bank. Tell her I'll pick up my suit money Tuesday morning. She owes us an apology. I looked at my daughter. I saw the child who once kept her allowance in jar lids sorted by size because the world felt kinder when things matched. I saw the woman who has been taught by this man to doubt her own eyes. Baby, I said I do not take culinary criticism from a man who seasons his life with Mountain Dew. And I don't take home decor notes from somebody who thinks a big TV hung crooked is a design choice. She snorted, laughed, then cried into her sleeve. I let her. Tears washed the sandy grit out of resolve. That insult, I touched the paper towel to her cheek. That insult is not about my cooking or my bricks. It's about him needing to drag women lower than his own laziness so he doesn't have to look that laziness in the face. So what now, she said. Now I said we do paperwork with prayer. We let adults who wear badges handle men who wear excuses. I printed the FTC identity theft report, the credit freeze confirmations, the ODJFS submission receipt, and stapled everything like I was back at my hospital desk. I put Detective Mills's card in the front pocket of the folder and wrote the River City Credit Union appointment time on a Post-it, like I suspected there might be a morning and a plan for it. Just past 9, Michael decided to spice the night with a little theater. He banged on my side door like he was the police, then strutted in when I opened it because some men take your threshold as an invitation if you don't teach them how doors work. He went straight for the casserole, lifted the foil, and said, "This the helping you brag about. This is sad chicken Laverne." I stepped between him and my stove with the patience of a woman who's had contractors miss a window and plumbers miss a leak. "You're in my house," I said. "Use your inside voice and your outside manners." "Give me the card back," he said, hands on hips like a toddler who'd learned posture from a reality show. "You embarrassed Danny. You embarrassed me at church. People talk." "I didn't embarrass you," I said. "Your noon alarm embarrassed you. Your Lair of Legends receipts embarrassed you. Your Lexus deposit embarrassed you. I just put a light on." He smirked, picked up a spoon, and tasted the sauce like he'd been appointed Gordon Ramsay of Bexley. "Dry," he said, and set the spoon down like he'd just sentenced a soufflé to death. "Please leave my home," I said. "We can discuss your adult decisions Tuesday at 10 with Carla at River City Credit Union." He laughed loud enough to rattle the spoon. "I'm not meeting your little bank friend. I need cash. Danny's on board. She knows you owe us for cutting that card." From the hallway, my daughter's voice trembled. "I'm not on board, Michael." He turned surprised, like husbands are when wives stop being echoes. He recovered fast, drawing himself up. "Fine, fine. I'll be at that bank at 10. Bring the money. Navy jacket. 42 regular. Let's not drag this out." "There won't be any dragging," I said. "There will be clarity." He left a minute later, but not before bumping the trash can on purpose and knocking a HOA letter from my counter to the floor. I watched him walk down the drive, a man-shaped complaint in sneakers, and I felt something settle in me, like a foundation finally cured. When the door clicked behind him, I picked up the HOA letter. Please store bins out of view. And laughed until I had to sit. The world's tiny rules and my kitchen's big rules had finally found each other. Tuesday morning came like an appointment I'd made with my better self. I wore a navy cardigan and my church flats because revenge doesn't need stilettos, it needs signatures. I put 2 waters in the car because hydration is hospitality, and texted Detective Mills arriving River City Credit Union, 9:55 conference room, if your schedule allows. She replied with a single thumbs-up emoji that looked sterner than any words. At a red light, I got a voicemail. Ellen Kravitz Laverne, we've filed everything. ODJFS acknowledged receipt. CPD Financial Crimes logged your report. I'll email copies for your records. 2 notes: do not give him cash under any circumstances, and do not make promises. Let the bank ask for the pay stub. Let law enforcement speak for the law. Copy, I said to no one because nobody was in the car to hear. In the credit union lobby, Carla waved us back to the small glass-walled room they use for quiet conversations and big decisions. Danny sat on my left, hair pulled back, face clean of everything but resolve. I put the household truth folder on the table, squared the edges for the 1,000th time, and set my palms flat. The world felt measured. So did I. 10 o'clock. No Michael. 10:05. Still no Michael. At 10:12, the door swung, and in he came, hoodie up, cologne, loud a grin like a sticker slapped over a rust spot. Let's make this quick, he said, dropping into the chair across from me. He didn't look at Carla. He didn't look at Danny. He looked at me like I was a vending machine he knew the code for. Carla folded her hands. Good morning, Mr. Whitaker. For any personal loan, we'll need an offer letter, start date, and supervisor contact to verify employment. He rolled his eyes. I told her I'm starting Monday. Verification is standard, Carla said kindly but ironed. No verification, no loan. He leaned back, smirked, and delivered his parting act of spite, as if the bank were a stage. You know what else is standard? Dry chicken at Laverne's house and 1978 wallpaper, and a woman who thinks her little HOA makes her a queen. Danny inhaled. I stayed still. Mr. Whitaker. Carla said, do you have the paperwork? He slapped empty hands on the table. I have needs. Adults have documents, I said. Out in the lobby, a badge flashed in the reflection of the glass. Detective Mills tapped twice, then opened the glass door like she'd rehearsed it 1,000 times, which I suppose she had. She was late 40s, pressed navy suit hair, pulled back expression that said she had nothing to prove and time to do it. Mr. Whitaker, she said. Shonda Mills, 3rd Precinct. Can I speak with you a moment? Michael's grin turned into a smirk. Knew it. Laverne called the cops because she won't loan a man money for a suit. Detective Mills didn't look at me. She kept her eyes on him the way you keep your eyes on a dog you don't know yet. Sir, I just need to confirm your identity. She held up a tablet. Michael Whitaker, born March 9th, 1990. He slouched back, spread his arms like a rapper in a music video. That's me. Do you have ID on you? Why I didn't do anything? Because I asked, she said. Please. He shoved a beat-up wallet across the table. She glanced, compared, and slid it back. Thank you. We can talk in the lobby. He folded his arms. We'll talk here. Carla's smile didn't move, but her words did. We need the room shortly for a scheduled appointment, Mr. Whitaker. The lobby's fine. We all stood chairs, whispering against the carpet. Out in the lobby, the Tuesday crowd was doing what American lobbies do, being patient in public. A young mom bounced a fussy baby. A man in a VFW cap read a tri-fold brochure with his glasses low. The printer made its steady rhythm. December's paper snowflakes drooped from the ceiling vents. Detective Mills kept her voice quiet. Mr. Whitaker, you've got an open bench warrant for failure to appear on a traffic citation and an unresolved contact request from our office. We can handle it calmly. Michael laughed loud enough to startle the baby. You're joking. Over a ticket. Over the warrant, she said. Please put your hands where I can see them. He lifted them to shoulder height in a showman's shrug. This is harassment. I'm getting a suit for my first day Monday. That woman he jerked his chin toward me owes us for cutting the card. I felt Danny tense at my side. I touched her elbow, a little pressure that said, "Steady now." My mother once told me when a fool is performing, the smartest thing you can do is let the audience see the stage lights. Detective Mills tilted her head. "Mr. Whitaker, this is not the time. You can come peacefully or we can make a scene." He rolled his eyes, turned to Carla. "You seeing this dry chicken 1978 wallpaper HOA queen? And now she's got rent-a-cops ruining my week." The man in the VFW cap lifted his head just enough to be a witness. Sir Mills said, voice thinner, now filing emotion off the edges. "Place your hands behind your back." He didn't move. "Michael," I said, calm as sugar dissolving in tea, "adults live with consequences. Kids live with excuses." He snapped at me loud and ugly. "You owe us an apology and money." Every teller looked up. The baby stopped fussing, as if even babies know when a line gets crossed. Danny flinched but didn't step back. I'm proud of her for that. She stood her ground without grabbing mine. Detective Mills took a half step closer. "Hands, now." He lifted his wrists like he was doing the world a favor. In that half second before metal met bone, he turned to me for one last performance. "So where's the loan for my suit, Laverne Navy jacket 42 regular? Make it quick." And that was the chair I'd brought to the table. I let the silence stretch just enough to make room for the words to land. "I already paid for your suit, Michael." I said every syllable easy and bright. "It's orange, and the delivery is to the police station." A couple of soft gasps. Someone's receipt printer kicked like a rim shot after a good line. Carla looked down, then up, professional face back in place. The VFW cap man cleared his throat. The baby, having opinions, said, "Oh," and then went back to his thumb. Mills clicked the cuffs with a practiced neutral motion. No flourish. No glee, just the sound of one thing becoming another. Michael's bravado drained the way cologne fades in cold air. You can't arrest me in a bank," he sputtered. "Actually, sir," she said, "I can arrest you anywhere in my jurisdiction." She checked the fit, 2 fingers between metal and skin, like a nurse testing a bandage. "We'll address the warrant, and you'll want to schedule time with the Financial Crimes Unit to discuss concerns raised in a report." He gaped. "Financial crimes." She didn't answer. "Cops don't debate you in the lobby. They escort you to places where debates are spelled arraignment." He tried to pivot to me. "Danny, tell her to stop. Tell your mom she owes us. Tell..." Danny's voice was small, steady, brand new. "Michael, stop. This is on you." The words were simple, but she said them in a way I hadn't heard from her since before 2 rings and a cake. She said them like a woman who had finally taken her name back. Mills guided him toward the door. He tried to wrench an elbow, discovered physics applies to everybody, and let himself be guided. On the way past the teller line, he offered the crowd a little speech, because he had to. "This is a misunderstanding. We're gonna sue. This is a vendetta." The VFW cap man said, without looking up, "Son, maybe try a time card before a lawsuit." The young mom bounced her baby and looked at me with a kindness I wanted to put in my pocket. Carla met my eyes briefly and gave me the same nod I've seen ladies give each other near the deli case when one of us picks the good ham subtle permission to feel okay. The doors hissed open, hissed shut. For a moment the lobby held its breath the way a living room does when the last relative leaves after a holiday dinner. Then the printer chugged again. Someone got called to a window. The world resumed. Carla ushered us back into the glass room. "Mrs. Porter, Ms. Whitaker," she said gently. "We can review options for you. Separate account for Ms. Whitaker, a small emergency fund setup, financial coaching sessions. No pressure today, but it's there." "Thank you," I said. "Yes, please." Danny nodded, wiped under her eyes with the heel of her hand. "I want an account that's just mine," she said. "New card, new everything." "Absolutely," Carla said. "We'll start with your ID." As Danny fished her license from her wallet, I stood to stretch my back and glanced at the frosted glass. Mills was outside speaking into her shoulder mic by the cruiser, the sort of half-profile that belongs on a recruitment poster. I sent the woman a blessing, which is Baptist for thank you plus keep you. Paperwork has a rhythm named date of birth signature. Name date of birth signature. We did that dance for 20 minutes. Between forms, I looked at my daughter the way you look at a person who has made it out of a rip current and back to the shore on two shaky legs. I thought about the retirement funds I'd tended like a backyard garden all my adult life, about how long a 401k takes to grow, and how fast a fool can mow it down mid-summer. I thought about all the mothers who've stood in lobbies like this, bank schools, court buildings holding their breath and their boundaries at the same time. Before we left, Carla slid a little brochure across. Free credit score, check, build, repair, protect. I smiled at the headline. A credit score, like a reputation, is what happens when you tell the truth to vendors over and over and over until they believe you more than they believe your last mistake. In the parking lot, winter's pale sun did its best. Danny stood by my passenger door keys in her fist. Mom, she said, I'm sorry. For what I asked. For asking you to make easy choices when the right ones were hard. I cupped her face in both hands. That's what daughters are for, I said. And mothers, we remind each other. A cruiser door thunked closed. Michael shouted something muffled we couldn't make out. Mills settled into her seat and pulled away turn signal, ticking polite as manners. I took a breath I felt in my ankles. My phone buzzed a new voicemail from Ellen Kravitz. Laverne got confirmation from ODJFS. Your report is in queue. Keep all documents. No conversations with him without a third party. Proud of you. Proud of you. We ought to write that on ladies' room mirrors in cursive. On the way home, we swung by Schmidt's for a half-pound of pecan and 2 cream puffs because there are traditions I will not surrender even to the calendar. Danny ate one in the car like she hadn't eaten dessert in a year. Halfway through, she laughed at herself and powdered sugar dusted her coat like blessing. At my kitchen table, I put the household truth folder back in the drawer beside the warranties and extra takeout menus. The drawer shut smooth. I thought about HOAs and their bins, about credit and its habits, about work and its mercy. I poured us sweet tea, not too sweet the way women over 60 like it. Was that too hard, Danny asked finally. It was exactly as hard as the truth I said. She nodded, sipping. Somewhere in the neighborhood, a snowblower coughed to life. Life went on, doing what it does, resuming. My phone pinged again, a text from a number I didn't recognize. This is Paula Whitaker. Is Michael with you? I typed, he's with the police, Mrs. Whitaker. The 3rd precinct can provide details. Then I set the phone face down and reached across the table for my daughter's hand. You're not a second option, I said. Not to life, not to love, not to yourself. The tea glass sweat a little ring on my old wood. If you live long enough, you learn the rings tell a story. I wiped it with my sleeve. Some stains you clean. Some you keep to remember what the table survived. By the time we pulled into my driveway, the police cruiser was 2 turns and a world away. Danny and I carried our cream puffs inside like they were talismans. I brewed coffee because grief and relief both ask for something warm to hold. We didn't speak for a few minutes. We listened to the heater cycle and the clock do its patient ticks. Danny broke first. I feel wrong for feeling better, she said, like I shouldn't be relieved, but I am. That's not wrong, I said. That's your nervous system standing down. She laughed wetly. You and your HR words. They've kept a lot of people employed and a few fools honest, I said. Sit, sip. Her phone lit. Michael 19 texts each one a different episode of the same show. You did this. Call my mom. I'm suing. I'm sorry. You owe me. She flipped it face down like a pancake that wasn't ready, and for the first time in months, left it there. We made a list because lists are bridges from chaos to Tuesday. Number 1, change the locks. I called my guy at Ace Hardware, the one who knows me by name and key type, and an hour later, he was at Danny's apartment with a toolbox and polite conversation about the Ohio State game. Number 2, open Danny's new account already started at River City Credit Union. Set up direct deposit for her eye clinic job, unlink any ghost auto pays, and enroll in the free credit score check so we could track her climb out. Number 3, freeze her credit. We'd done that, but we added fraud alerts and updated her passwords because a woman's digital life deserves decent deadbolts. Number 4, counseling. I texted Reverend Carter for the name of the lady at church who never forgets a tissue and always remembers scripture, and he sent 2 names with a note. Boundaries are holy too. Number 5 surprised us both dinner at home. Not a survival plate, a meal. Something that said we weren't living around somebody else's tantrum anymore. I pulled a pack of drumsticks from the freezer and marinated them like my mother taught me paprika garlic and enough lemon to put a wake-up in it. Danny peeled potatoes and told me about a kid at the clinic who gave her a sticker that said, "You're my favorite grown-up." We smiled without feeling like frauds. Around 7, the phone rang with a number I knew, Ellen Kravitz. "Arraignment will likely be in the morning," she said. "Don't attend unless you want to. It's administrative. We'll get notice from the municipal court about the next steps. Keep all your documents handy. And please no contact with him tonight. If he shows up, call the police. Do not open the door for chaos." "I won't," I said. "I'm old enough to prefer sleep to drama." After we ate, Danny stood at my sink and did the dishes with a focus that looked like prayer. She stared out the window the way women do when they're watching the kind of future that only shows up once the noise leaves town. "Mom." "Yes, baby." "I'm scared of being alone." "You've been alone for a long time," I said. "You just had company." She stopped water running over her wrists. "That's mean," she said. "That's accurate," I said gently. "There's a difference." She dried her hands and faced me. Her eyes were clear in a way I'd missed without knowing. What does not a second option look like in practice? Because I don't want to end up here again. "Okay," I said and pulled out a fresh index card. "We're going to write it down like a recipe. Work is dignity. Any man who wants to lead anything starts by leading himself to a job, not a promise, a pay stub. Credit is character on paper. Protect yours and notice his. Late fees are like warning lights. Believe them. Help is a noun, not a lifestyle. I'll help you in a crisis. I won't finance your routine. No secrets with numbers. If we're sharing life, we're sharing ledger lines. Surprises are for birthdays. Boundaries talk quieter than lectures. No is a complete sentence. So is, that doesn't work for me. Listen to the small cringe. When your stomach whispers, this is off, that's your future trying to be loyal. She took the card and held it like a passport. And if I miss one, you call me, I said, or you call Carla at the credit union, or Ellen, or the church lady with the good tissues. A woman's network is the difference between a detour and a ditch. We sat with that for a beat. Then we did something frivolous on purpose. We watched 2 episodes of a home makeover show where grown men actually level cabinets and women say, "I love it about pantries." We judged backsplashes and approved light fixtures. It felt like rehydration. Morning came crisp and bright like Ohio. In December, sometimes remembers it can be kind. We did not go to arraignment. We went to Kroger. We bought staples and a poinsettia because a red plant in a cold month is rebellion. Danny paid with her new card. It went through. She smiled like the first day she got her driver's license. In the afternoon, we drove to her apartment and boxed up the visibly his, the graphic tees that smelled like cologne and immaturity, the Xbox steering wheel I'd never signed up to be a shipping address for. We labeled 2 boxes to Paula Whitaker and stacked them in the hall. We did not throw anything. We did not break anything. A woman's power is not measured in shattered plates. It's measured in how she chooses where to set them down. On the way out, we stuck a note on the inside of the door. Keys returned to management. Locks changed. Contact by lawyer only. Short, polite, final. That evening, we walked into New Hope Baptist for the Wednesday supper. Miss Odessa slid us onto a bench beside the sweet tea and potato salad. "Heard you stood up straight," she whispered. "Here's a roll. It's the good kind. Women in their 60s know the sacrament looks like yeast and butter sometimes. Reverend Carter didn't say our names from the pulpit. He didn't need to. He preached from Proverbs again, lazy hands, diligent hands, steady paths. Instead of crying, Danny took notes. 2 days later, municipal court sent the notice pretrial date in January recommended financial counseling and job program as conditions for release. No contact order with Ms. Whitaker, the paper read. I clipped it to the front of the household truth folder and put the whole thing in the cabinet behind the cereal. Some battles you keep accessible until they're history. Paula Whitaker texted to say she'd pick up the boxes Saturday. I didn't raise him to be like this, she wrote. I thumbed back, most of us didn't. But we can raise our boundaries now. She sent a single amen. Progress comes in lowercase sometimes. Danny's clinic put her on full time at the front desk after another receptionist moved out of state. Benefits start in March. She asked Carla about a secured card to rebuild her own profile and set up auto pay on her utilities, because a credit score is just a series of small, boring yeses that add up to a big good life. On Saturday, we hung a cheap wreath on her door and a nicer one on mine because recovery earns pretty. The HOA newsletter came with a reminder about snow shoveling and trash can placement. I laughed and taped it to the fridge. Order helps grief find a chair. Sunday after church, Danny and I drove past a thrift store on Livingston. "Want to look?" she asked. Inside, she found a gently used interview blazer that fit like it meant to. She didn't need it for herself, she already had a job, but she wanted to hang it on the back of her bedroom door as a promise to the version of her that might one day need to walk into a better room. It cost $8.99. I bought 2 mugs that said, "Nevertheless, she persisted." I'd have bought them even if they were ugly, but they weren't. That night, Danny packed a small overnight bag to stay at her own apartment, keys in hand locks changed, new card in her wallet. We hugged on the porch in the quiet that happens when winter covers a neighborhood in wool. "I'm scared to be brave," she said against my coat. "That's how you know it's bravery," I said. "Fear is the doorman." She pulled back and rolled her eyes. "You're going to start a podcast of mom sayings." "Only if I can monetize it," I said, and she laughed her old laugh again. When she drove away, I stood there like mothers have stood for 100 years, watching taillights and whispering small prayers that sound like, "Keep her, keep her, keep her." I went inside to a quiet house and a sink free of somebody else's spoon. I opened my 401k portal and checked the balance, not because it had changed in a day, but because discipline likes witnesses. I paid the property tax online, clicked submit, and felt that old satisfaction that comes when a woman keeps her promises to her own future. The next morning, a letter came from ODJFS confirming receipt of my report. It was plain and bureaucratic and perfect. "We take fraud seriously," it said. "We will investigate." Sometimes government form letters are a lullaby for women who've done too much on their own. In the afternoon, Ellen called with a checklist. "When the pre-trial comes, you don't have to speak. Bring nothing but yourself. If anyone asks you for statements outside counsel, say no. We'll keep you posted." I thanked her and told her I had pot roast if she ever wanted to trade paperwork for dinner. She laughed and said she might take me up on it. At dusk, Danny texted a photo her small living room with a lamp on and a blanket folded sharp on the arm of the couch, the new account paperwork on the coffee table, the blazer hanging like a shadow of a future self who'd learned better the first time rather than the third. "I'm okay," she wrote. "I think I'm actually okay." "You are more than okay," I typed back. "You're not a second option." Then I put my phone down and stood at my sink with the last spoon in the house. I washed it, dried it, and put it away, and felt something settle where anger used to live. Not happiness. Something sturdier. Something with a backbone. People have asked me since then if I regret the line in the bank, the one about the orange suit. I don't. Not because it was clever, because it was accurate. You don't ruin a man by refusing to sponsor his entitlement. You just stop hiding the invoice he's been mailing to your spirit. Here's what I want my sisters, my American women, 50 to 70 with kitchens full of rings on the table and budgets like scripture to remember. Hard work is the opposite of humiliation. Work keeps your head up when you hand a card to a cashier and it goes through because you put something in before you took something out. A credit score is a memory. It remembers the time you paid on time when you wanted to postpone. It remembers the winter you chose a coat from Goodwill and a full tank over a new purse. It remembers you kindly if you tell it the same truth long enough. Retirement funds are sacred. They are past you, loving future you. Guard them like you guard family recipes tight-lidded and only shared with people who can be trusted not to add water. HOAs and boundaries have this in common. They're annoying until you need them, and then they're the reason your neighborhood doesn't look like a rummage sale. Never accept being a second option in your own life. If a man offers you the back seat in a car he doesn't even pay for, you get out. Walk if you must. You'll sleep better. And if you're sitting there with a card your daughter keeps using for everybody's convenience, but yours, hear me, you are allowed to cut it. Cutting a card is not cutting love. It is cutting a rope a grown man keeps tying around your waist so he doesn't have to walk. As for Michael, the court did what courts do. He pled to the traffic mess, agreed to probation, took a financial class, and signed up for a job program that expects a person to show up sober and on time. The Financial Crimes Unit is doing their slow, boring, blessed work with the rest. I did not clap when I heard it. I did not gloat. I put the news on the same shelf as the flour and sugar essentials you don't show off about. Danny's doing fine. Better than fine. She has her own account, her own card, and an alarm that rings at 6:15 because women with plans like mornings. Some nights she calls me from her couch to tell me about a patient who made her laugh, or a little girl who drew her a stick figure family that looked suspiciously like a single mom and a grandma. We do not say, "You owe us." We say we owe ourselves. And sometimes, when the house is quiet and the tea's just right, I hear the echo of my own line and smile. Not because it was pretty, but because it was true. I already paid for your suit. It's orange and the delivery is to the police station. Then I turn out the kitchen light and the house settles around me like a good coat paid for chosen mine. If this story felt a little too familiar, if you've ever held a whole household on your back while someone else held a controller, take a breath. You are not mean for setting limits. You are wise. Love is not a blank check. It's a budget with room for dignity. Tonight, do one small thing for yourself. Write a boundary on an index card and stick it to your fridge. Help goes to vendors, not to excuses or no pay stub, no promises. Call your bank, check your credit, text a friend who tells you the truth kindly. That's how we move from hoping to healing. If a daughter or sister needs this story, share it with her. If you want more sharp, steady reminders that work is mercy and boundaries are love, follow this channel. Leave me a note in the comments. What's one boundary you're proud you kept? I'm Laverne, and I'll be back next week with another mother who refused to be a second option in her own life. Until then, keep your card secure, your head high, and your kitchen light warm.